Now, some people are being caught up in horrible situations here. We mentioned yesterday that some people already in hotel quarantine in South Australia were having it extended because there'd been an infection at their hotel, so they had to go back to day one. Now, we managed to catch up with one of those families earlier today. They're trying to get back to Melbourne from Turkey because Melbourne doesn't take anybody anymore directly. They had to fly through Adelaide. Have a listen to what happened. Burcu Sayan, thanks so much for joining us. You're holed up in quarantine in Adelaide with your family. I'm here in quarantine in Sydney on my own. But tell us what's happened to the length of your stay. It was going to be 14 days. Now it looks like being at least, 19 or 20 days?
Yeah, so we did arrive on the 11th of November. And we did initially think that our quarantine actually started from the 11th. But when we arrived at the hotel, they actually notified us that it will be starting the next day. So the day we arrived was day 0, and then the 12th was day 1. So all up, we will most likely be here for about 21 days.
And this has been extended, they said, because of the infection at the hotel you're staying at. They effectively had to recount your day 0, 5 days in. So you've had an additional 5 days added to your quarantine.
Yes, unfortunately. So one of the staff members have tested positive, and due to that, they are keeping us longer. So we're being punished for one staff member.
I can only imagine how you feel because I'm on day 12 myself in quarantine. I'm keeping busy. I'm on my own, but it's incredibly frustrating. It must be really difficult for you with an extended family and knowing that you've got all that additional time.
Yeah, so it's just been question marks everywhere. So we just got a letter one night while we were watching TV, slipped under our door. There was no communication, no phone call or anything like that. It was just one letter slipped under our door. The letter wasn't quite clear, so when I called reception, they couldn't answer any of my questions. So on the letter, it said you'll be doing an additional 14 days. So we were very confused. So we're like, do we start all over again, or do we finish our 14 days and do we start another 14 days? And then we were told that we're going to be moved to another hotel, which worried us a little bit, to be honest, because we feel safe in this room. We don't have any contact with any staff member, literally zero contact. Everything that we put out at the front door, we must wear a mask when we're opening the door, and we need to double bag everything. So I don't know how they say the outbreaks happen from here, but yeah, unfortunately, it's very, very frustrating.
Very frustrating to say the least. Now, you didn't even want to be in Adelaide, but the reason you've flown via Adelaide is because you can't fly into Melbourne. So you'll be hoping to get home to Melbourne, at the end of the month, I suppose, maybe early December.
Yeah, correct. So our initial flight was on the 8th of November back to Melbourne, and we're hoping that the borders would open by then, but they didn't open it. So the only other option was Adelaide on the 10th of November. So instead of being stuck in Turkey, we thought, you know what, that's the only option we've got, so we're just going to take it up. And now we have to deal with this. We're meant to be leaving on the 26th. We've rented a car for the 26th, but they've told us not to change anything as yet because no one knows what's going on.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope you get out at the end of the 14 days. It's not extended, but it sounds like it has been extended by at least 5 days for now. You would have done your tests initially at day 3, so presumably you've got tests back negative already?
Yeah, so no, they actually did the tests on day 1 of quarantine. So on the 12th, we did a test, and then we got the phone call the next day saying we're all negative.
Yeah, so this is so frustrating. You know you're negative. You're waiting to do a subsequent test on day 10 perhaps, but how are the kids holding up, and your mother-in-law, how are you all holding up in them?
My son actually suffers from anxiety, so he had a bit of a moment yesterday. That was hard, because trying to explain to a child that I'm sorry, but we're starting all over again when he's missed his friends, he's missed home. My mother-in-law's doing okay. She's a very homey person, so it's not bothering her too much. I think it's more myself and my partner that's struggling, because we like to be outdoors. So it's a little
Yeah,
hard.
I know what it's like. Are you phlegmatic about this? Do you accept that it's just one of those things that happened, or do you think that you've been treated poorly and not given enough information?
To be honest, I think the communication is really poor. I think we're being treated unfairly. We're being treated like we've actually got coronavirus when we've already tested negative. There were people that were meant to leave yesterday. They got a letter the night before saying that they can leave in the morning, and then an hour later they got another letter saying, sorry, you can't leave. So we're all being treated like we've got coronavirus and that we must stay in quarantine, whereas the staff member that has tested positive, she got to go home and quarantine at home. I just think it's so unfair.
Yeah, that sounds quite unjust in many ways. I suppose the only consolation at the moment is outside your window. All of South Australia now, can you believe it, is going into lockdown for 6 days. So I suppose most of the state is not much worse off than you are now. Thanks so much for joining us, Burcu. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
How would you be, hey? Got 3 nights to go, 3 more sleeps in this place before I can get out and see my family. I don't know what I'd do if they knocked on the door and said it was going to be extended. It's just a shocking situation for those people to be in.